Welcome to Unbroken Veterans. We're speaking with Mary Howe today. Mary, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Sam. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, we always like to start with start at the beginning with who are you and what do you do?
Well, that's always the best place to start. My name is Mary Katherine Howe. I am an Air Force veteran. I was in Air Force Special Operations for about 8 years at Hurlburt Field, Florida. I was an aerial gunner on the AC-130U. Currently, I am a family nurse practitioner still here in Florida. And I work as an aesthetics injector. So, more of a holistic approach to wellness, injectable services, laser treatments, those kinds of things. I also work as a sexual assault nurse examiner for a local nonprofit. And then I have my Faces of the Military blog series where spotlight veterans, military spouses, those connected with the military community, as well as highlighting wellness and mindset. So that's kind of where I am now. But to start off, so I looked at joining the military at a very young age. My family lineage, so everyone in my family has served. Typically, I'm the one that broke from the pack though, because they all were in the army and I joined the Air Force.
So you're the
But
smarter of the bunch then.
it's thanks to them. When this all started, my parents were like, "You need to join the Air Force." I was like, "Okay, sounds good." So my brother was in the army. My mom was an army officer, and then my dad was in Delta Force. And my grandfather, his name is Charlie Beckwith. He is the founder of Delta Force. And so I have all of these weaving ties to serving our country, patriotism, always doing something bigger than yourself. And that's really what called me into this world. When I was in high school, my dad was in Black Hawk Down, so I had read the book for the first time. And I think really reading that, I'll never forget. For listeners, I was on drill team. It's like a dance team, okay,
Yeah,
in
my
the
daughter's in
South.
dance.
Yeah, people in the South know what it is. And I had, long story short, broken my leg or my foot, excuse me, and I was sitting out. I was out for like 6 weeks, and so I was taking the time to read the book, and I remember just reading it and looking out and going, okay, there's more to this life, right? And so I really started shifting gears and going, let me look at ROTC programs. My mom was really, I think, encouraging me to do the commissioned route. So I looked at a couple colleges, their ROTC programs, and it really, when I sat down to do the applications, I have no idea what college applications look like now, but back then you had to kind of do your essays and everything. I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
do.
I can't think of a reason why I want to go to this school. I'm doing it because my mom wants me to go, but I don't want to go.
Hmm.
So I think when that happened, I was like, I'm going to enlist. And that's when they were like, whatever you do, don't, you need to join the Air Force. They knew who I was, and I'm so grateful. Because they knew I'd get the Air Force, you get a nice life. And I immediately went to the recruiter, started the MEPS program, and then 3 weeks after high school graduation, went right into basic training. I'd also spoken to a mentor at the time who said, Mary, whatever you do, you need to put flying jobs on your dream sheet. He said, every single job needs to be a flying job. And so that's what I did. Aerial gunner was my first choice.
That was
And
my question.
so
What some of them were?
aerial gunner, loadmaster, boom operator, and then I think I put probably at the time sensor operator, and then I forget what the last one was, but all of them were flying enlisted positions that you could get.
Hmm.
And so I was slotted for gunner. And at that point, you don't know if you're going to get helicopters or fixed wing, and you just kind of go through training. And then once you get to your air crew course, that's when they start shifting people out for, hey, you're going to be a helicopter gunner, or you're going to go to a fixed wing, so a gunship. And then I got gunships, and that was at first I was actually a little I wouldn't say upset, but I was definitely in my head wanted the helicopter. But
Oh yeah.
I'm glad it worked out that way and I went to gunships. There was a reason for it. And so after that, went to Hurlburt Field, did the training. Went to the operational unit. While I was there, I deployed 4 times. It was the best job I've ever had. I learned so much. The mission behind the gunship is really, it's something, it's hard to put into words sometimes what the mission is. And so what we do is we provide close air support for ground forces. And we are really good. What makes us unique is we can loiter and we can stay over an operation the techniques that we use instead of perhaps maybe a fighter approach where you're, doing runs. We get to build that situational awareness and stay overhead and op. And it's a phenomenal
Hmm.
platform that is able to do this. So another thing with that is to it's just so important. I had someone tell me that the way a gunship, the meaning behind it is we probably preserved hundreds, if not thousands, of family lines from
Yeah.
what we did. And when you
Yeah.
when you put it into perspective like that, it just kind of makes you take a breath because there's so much meaning behind it. And I'm so thankful I got to do it and to provide air support to help bring, the men on the ground home.
Yeah, that's a very yeah, I don't know if you could explain it any better than that, but it's one of those jobs, and there's a lot of them, but that one's pretty direct as far as your presence is alone, let alone your contributions or helping people come back. Because I've heard so many stories of like it was over until close air support showed up.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the interesting things that when I was looking at your information and seeing what your job was, that I was like, it'll be really cool to talk to somebody who is like, because you hear about the plane, but you don't hear about the people in the plane and what they're doing and what's
Yeah.
going on. And so, like, it's one of those many interesting jobs that you don't really give a lot of thought to until you stop and think about it.
There's a lot that goes on inside the plane. There's a lot of crew coordination. One of my mentors, who was an aerial gunner, he basically explained it to me when I was young in the career field, like it takes, 13, 14 people to fire a weapon because we all have to
Mhm.
be on the same page. We all have different things in front of us. Like some people have different screens. You have your aircraft commander, your co-pilot, and then you have the gunners in the back. We all have to make sure we understand what's happening to actually get to the point where we need to fire a weapon. And so, yeah, yeah.
So, what would be I have a couple questions with that about that
Sure.
then? Um, what's something you liked that you didn't know was a part of the job? So then, as you learn the job, you're like, I really like this aspect to it.
Oh, that's a good question. I think the relationship you build with the ground parties is something that I underestimated in the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, that is something, there's so many missions where things are not going well.
Hmm.
And you can always hear it in their voice on the ground. You can hear that shake, that pause. And so watching it from overhead and developing this trust with the ground party to hear what they need and execute precisely,
Hmm.
you develop this lifelong trust. And there's people that I have been fortunate enough to meet after these kinds of events. And it really solidifies the importance of what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a scenario where like you were helping some ground people out, and then you got to meet the people you're helping out later or after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
There's a
cool.
few. There's one, Jimmy, he's phenomenal. He was, it was my first mission deployed where we shot, and I was 20 years old. Jimmy was shot, I believe, 6 times. There was it was a hard mission. They lost one of their team members, and so it was very fast paced. And once we got them to safety and they could return the fallen, maybe I think the pilot got to go out and meet a few of them. And then probably 6 months later, I was on a way to a TDY and got to meet Jimmy for the first time. And he's still
Cool.
in crutches. And
Yeah.
oof, And so when you see it like that, the
Hmm.
humanity behind it is very powerful. And so
Hmm.
I'm still in touch with Jimmy to this day. He's
Yeah.
phenomenal. He is what resilience really is. But
Hmm.
just those kinds of relationships are so important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then learning other jobs always fascinates me because like every job has its like annoying thing where you're like, oh, I always forget to do that part, or like you're like, I hate doing this part of the job. You know, that's how cool, however cool the job is. There's always that one thing where you're like, oh man. So
Oh
what would
man.
it be like? You're up in the plane. What would it be in that position where you're like, oh, I forgot to do this, or I hate doing this part.
Man, I don't know if there's anything in the plane. Like that's the coolest job there ever was.
Right? Yeah.
I think it's the stuff, the other stuff. It's and it goes back to like everything in the military,
Right.
like the paperwork, the little ankle biter taskers, those kinds of things are like they're necessary, but you're kind of like, oh, I'd rather be doing something because we all have that kind of mindset of like, I want to go, go, go.
Yeah.
But man, I can't think of anything in the plane. There's some days that are hot, but that's about it.
Where were all four of your deployments to? Were they at the same place, different places?
I did two to Afghanistan, and then I did two where we were based out of different areas and
Okay.
flying into Iraq.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, awesome. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced and kind of what helped you overcome them?
in the military,
Hmm.
so many. I think not having patience in the beginning was something that really bit me in the butt. Like I think I would definitely was didn't understand, spoke too much too soon. I definitely had a mouth on me. And I think that's something that I look back on. I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I had no structure or calmness within myself and like consideration for others in certain aspects.
Yeah.
So that's something, that's probably the biggest one.
Okay. And then what about in your transition, kind of the biggest challenge to transition?
So this question is so interesting for me. So when I left active duty. I went to the reserves.
Hmm.
I spent 2 years in the reserve unit where we basically take brand new people from the pipeline that are going to be mission ready and we train them.
Hmm.
And so they were right in that cusp of that transition zone where the AC-130U was getting ready to retire and the AC-130J, which is the new model, is what was coming online. So I would have had to have cross-trained and done a 3-year contract. And I had just started nursing school
Hmm.
because I was trying to do kind of this both. I was trying to do both as long as I could. And so it just ended up being something that I needed to say, okay, I can't do full time while I'm trying to become a registered nurse.
Right.
So I went right into nursing school. I also had my daughter in nursing school, and then as soon as I graduated, COVID hit. So I started working in the NICU. And so when people talk about that transition, I never had one.
Oh, that's
I
good.
I don't know. I don't know because what happened was I immediately was looking for the next thing to keep me distracted, to keep go 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 mentality. I was not looking at myself. I was like, how can I stay busy?
Hmm.
And that's what I did. So I was like, okay, I left one really high stress job for another one.
Has it
And
been effective for you, would you say?
no, because then I can say that now. What would I would say would happen is I did the registered nurse. I got that, started working in the NICU. I realized very quickly I could not do it. I did not have the capacity at the time. My daughter had just turned 1 and I was working night shift and it was a lot. And nothing prepares you for those kinds of situations of what you're having to deal with every shift until you're in them. Like God bless nurses. I Nurses are the backbone. I don't
Yeah.
know how they do it. But in the NICU, there's so many issues and things that you're not ready for. How do
Yeah.
you deal with a kid weaning a baby off drugs every single shift? And so there's a mental toll that comes with it,
Yeah.
along with like those safety health concerns. And with a 1-year-old, a new nurse, like and COVID, it was just so much for me. And I was like,
Oh
I
yeah.
can't sustain this. So I ended up looking for a job, and I found a job in a medical spa. And I didn't know nurses could do aesthetics. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a whole career field. And I was very fortunate enough to get brought on, and I worked there for about a year. And then I transitioned to another medical spa closer to where I live. Worked there for 2 years, and while I was doing this, I was getting my master's degree. So I was working, I was going to school, and then after I finished all of like the didactic portion of nurse practitioner school, that's when I started clinicals. And that's when everything in my life kind of stopped. And I was like, oh, I realized I've been outrunning myself this whole time.
Yeah.
And so that's when I would say I had maybe like a delayed transition where I'm going, oh my gosh, this is what everyone else probably went through right when they got out. And now I'm just kind of experiencing it.
Yeah. I do have a question.
Yeah.
So, because you were in Special Forces community,
Special operations,
right,
yes.
or special operations. So, was there additional training, or is it just kind of like a lot of other jobs, you go to your job training, then that's it? Or did you have to go through some additional schooling, like SEER school and things like that?
Yes, I went to SEER school. What an experience that was. I went to SEER school, water survival, and then gunner training. There's a didactic portion, and then what happens is you get into your ground trainer phase and your flight phase. So once you finish all the paper, the testing, learning the publications, technical orders, all of that, then you go into what your ground training phase. So you
Mhm.
basically are chair flying, is what we refer to it a lot of the times, where you're practicing everything that you would do in the air and you're doing it on the airplane. We have simulators, and you're practicing everything. Once you
Yeah.
check off, I mean, the checklist is, I think it took me a year and a half maybe to get through the whole training. It's long. And then you go to your flight phase, and you basically repeat everything, and you get checked off in air, and then you have a check ride where you're basically evaluated on every single thing, knowledge, TOs, from the question aspect to the actual, can you perform and do everything. And then with the AC-130, you at the time we had the 105 millimeter, the 40 millimeter, and the 25 millimeter. Like, you also had to have the physical performance had to be there, because those
Right. Yeah.
105s weigh 45 pounds.
Yeah.
So if you can't, I mean, the standard when I was there, you had to at least be able to in the beginning load 35 rounds without stopping.
Mhm.
I mean, but if you do a full combat load, that's 100 rounds. So you have to keep up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. Did you guys do any JDAMs?
What's a JDAM?
Joint Defense Attack Missile?
We don't have those on
Yeah.
the airplane. I don't know what they have on. Like, I apologize. I'm so out of it now.
No, it's
I got out in
okay.
2019. And then my brain is filled with healthcare acronyms.
It's
So
all
I always,
right.
sometimes I get crisscrossed. But
No, I
I
get
think
it.
they have different. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was one of the munitions that some of the AC-130s carry, but
Probably the newer ones. They have totally different capability. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, so you kind of already answered this, but far as a cause you're able to devote yourself to, um, in your transition out, it seems like your work that you are doing, once you found out that there was aesthetic work that you could do as a nurse, seems like that's kind of what you devoted yourself to. What is it about that that draws you to it?
So I think that this is like a 3 to 4 fold question and answer. With aesthetics, I really liked, well, first, if anyone's ever worked in healthcare, it is incredibly stressful and high paced. Like, healthcare is the hardest job I ever had. And so when I went to aesthetics, I was like, oh, this is a totally different pace. And you really get to know your patients, which I love. I love people, and I love getting to work with women. I get to take my time and know them, which is just so beautiful. With aesthetics too, like getting the trust that comes with it to walk alongside a woman and like help them rediscover the beauty that was already there. I can't put a word on that. It's
Yeah.
it's the most rewarding experience. And so that's what really led me into this more holistic approach and care because I want to spend time with my patients. I really do. And this job allows me to. And then I believe in servant leadership. Like that,
Mhm.
my life is servant leadership. That's what I do. And it's very important to me to be there for others. What I am also learning, this could go down a whole rabbit hole, is like not to bleed with them, and not give myself where I'm just constantly pouring my cup out where I have nothing left because I
Yeah.
have a history of doing that. And so it's been really important to take a step back from myself this past year. But I do that. And then I work for it's called Gulf Coast Sexual Assault Program. So as a sexual assault nurse examiner, where after something occurs, we're called in to do the exam after the event. And I think that was something that just God called me to. I really wanted to go down the path of maybe starting a nonprofit for women veterans. And I just kind of got, when I saw this job show up, I just felt like God was saying, like, Mary, there's women you can help in your own area that need you. And
Yeah.
he made me capable to be able to do that. So there's that. And then through my blog, that's my other kind of like, I love,
Yeah.
again, it goes back. I love people and I love veterans and military spouses. And it just makes me so excited to share your stories and help be that bridge to connect you to your community and show that being a veteran is not your identity. It is part of you. There is like an identity crisis that I'm seeing right now within the veteran community where people are looking back too much. And I'm trying to look at what these other individuals are doing. Like they're using that veteran experience and the tools as part of their toolbox to go create something totally new. And I
Yeah.
just love getting to share that with others and they can
Yeah.
see that hopefully.
That's one thing we bring up, Nick and I, a lot as as guys like someone could be a plumber in the army and then they're like, oh, I can take those skills and go be a plumber. And it's like, yeah. And so then you got like infantry dudes that are like, I gotta be a cop or none of it translates. And that's where we're like, not really, because you learn time management, you learn discipline, you learned all these other skills. So no matter what the actual job is, you have all these capabilities outside that. And I even wrote an article on LinkedIn, a brief article on like, kind of what veteran-owned company means to me. And then it doesn't always mean they're going to be great, but in a lot of cases, it means they're probably punctual. They probably take these things seriously. And so, yeah, I think highlighting that stuff and it's a part of you. It isn't your identity, but it's definitely a part of you. So,
100%. It's so important because you have to learn how to love and embrace it because there's so many layers to this within the veteran community and you just don't want to get stuck. You want to use those tools. I mean, they are essential and they are going to do so many things for you in your life. You just have to use them and find what you love because now that purpose, that sense of purpose of that huge mission, it's still there, but it just transferred to you. So you have to find what it is for you and then apply everything you learned.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of all that, what soft skills did you learn in the
I had
military
to
that
Google
helped
what
you?
soft skills was.
Do it.
I had to Google what soft skills were. I was like, oh my gosh, what's a soft skill? Am I missing the mark? But it's
Well, I'm
okay.
picking up that one example would be you're resourceful.
I am very resourceful. I will always find a way. And that's something from the military I learned. Like anyone can relate to this in the military. You are told to do something, and sometimes you don't have the resources, you don't have the means, but the mission has to get done and you find a way.
Yeah.
And that is something that I almost to a detriment have taken on in my civilian life because I would apply that role across the board, whether it be relationships, work, everything like that, where I'm going, I need to give every single thing and make it work, not recognizing the time and place mentality that where it was more appropriate. But I
Mm.
still think it's a very valuable school. What I'm learning to do now is refine it. And so I think that's really good. I wrote down, let me see.
Yeah, what else you got?
I got one more good one. Adaptive communication is
Oh
one.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that has helped me so much in healthcare. Um, and in life because I've learned everyone's so different in the military. So
Yeah.
different. We act like we're not, but we really are. And so you have to learn how to work with people, different management styles, leadership styles, cultural differences. And like it goes back when we were on the gunship, like there's 13 people with very different lives, and you all have to work together. You have
Yeah.
to. And so learning how to do that is such a tremendous skill that has helped me because in healthcare, I've learned like general population, like everyone is so different, and you have to learn how to meet people where they are in order to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like speaking different languages or dialects. It's like
Oh,
wording
yeah.
things differently for them or explaining things differently or trying to relate. I probably to a fault try to relate things too much to just to make sure someone understands because when someone doesn't understand what you're trying to say, it can be so counterproductive.
I'm so guilty of that. But there's a side of it too where you're trying to sometimes find meaning where perhaps there isn't. And
Yeah.
that's what I've done.
Yeah, like have you ever I've had this happen more than once in the military. I've seen someone say something like put out information and then one person takes it one way and someone else takes it the other way. And it's like crazy to be like on the outside of that and watch that happen
Yeah.
because I'm like that's when it was making me realize that those people's backgrounds are factoring in. They both heard the same thing, but they didn't hear the same thing.
They received it differently. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best way to say it, for
A
sure.
hundred
And
percent.
so
Yeah.
figuring out how to phrase it depending on who I'm talking to is like a big one. Or
Yeah.
I remember we were on a mission and uh, we were working with people from the Czech Republic, and their English is very limited. And so they were telling the lead gun truck to pay attention to the vehicle approaching, which kind of sounds like maybe snarky, like, hey, pay attention, do your job. But so he was irritated. But then on our net, I was like, hey, he doesn't understand English like we do. So I don't think he meant it that way. I think he just was wanting to make sure you were aware and not telling you to keep watching your lane. So
Yeah. Which is, it goes back, like, it's important for a time and a place. Like, I 100% that mission communication mindset. Like, there's times when I was flying, like, you have to be direct and be able to have that thick skin and take that communication and not attach. We've attached so much emotion to
yeah.
words, which is fair, but part of that is when you're in that mission mindset too often, you completely emotionally detach words. And that's
Mhm.
also not good. So you
Yeah.
have to work on that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now my favorite question. What would be your advice if you could go back in time to when you first started, joined up, signed the line? What would be your advice to yourself?
It's funny. I wrote about this on my blog about like just generalized if I could go back and tell myself something. And the answer is nothing.
Learn it all the
Absolutely
hard
not.
way.
Yep. Because she ain't gonna listen. I already know.
Well,
I
that's a
already
good
know.
point.
Good luck telling her something. So there's that side of it. And if I could, I would just whisper one thing and it would be keep the faith. Just
Yeah.
that one whisper. Because then, yeah, I'd leave that there. But I also, it all happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I have to learn that. Like I had to learn the lessons I had to learn to get to where I am now. So if I went back and gave myself any advice, some lessons they might not hold the same value that they do to me today. So that's why I'm like firm on just let it be.
Yeah. That's why I really have no regrets throughout my
Yes.
life. I mean, some I'm like, ugh, I hope I got a good lesson because that happened because that was rough.
That's a great mindset though. Having that thought process of like, well, I hope I learned a lesson from this instead of going down a totally different destructive rabbit hole is vital.
Yeah. And then I saw it on Chappelle's show back in the day, but it's funny because he says it like as a joke. But like when I thought about what he said, I was like, oh, that's really good actually. Like that's he says I don't remember what the sketch was, but he says when you lose, don't lose the lesson. And I was like, that's
He's
pretty
a
good.
genius.
Yeah. Which he's like, of course, it's like satire when he's saying it, but I could separate the two.
Yeah,
So,
but there's still something
um,
there. Yeah.
yeah. So, what were some, or if you used many, what were the most important ones? But otherwise, what were the veteran benefits that you've utilized in your path to where you are now?
The GI Bill is the biggest one for me. Get that piece of paper. If anyone is listening to this and they take one thing away from this, get that piece of paper. No one can take it from you once you have it. As a someone who really pushed off school and chose not to go to college and then become an adult learner, yes, there's challenges with it, but I would not be able to get my master's degree if I did not have the help of the GI Bill. It did not pay for my entire school because it's a very long program, but it paid for my associate's degree in nursing, most of my bachelor's, and then my master's I had to, do student loans, but I couldn't imagine of having to take this whole feat without the GI Bill. I mean, they pay you a stipend each month for housing.
Yeah.
Like, it, get it, do your degree, just do it.
Um, so what we try to do an episode on the GI Bill, but what I've
Yeah,
noticed is, and same thing with getting a veteran housing loan is situations are kind of different. And so I think what makes more sense to me is kind of ask people that use the various benefits, kind of a couple recommendations or tips that you learned in the process of doing it that they might want to watch out for. Granted, again, situations can be different, but I mean, as
yeah.
far as figuring out where to go and how to utilize it, what were some things you recommend people look into?
Real quick, I just want to say I did use the tuitions assistance while I was in to knock out like prereqs, and so I
Hmm.
highly recommend people do that too, because it's free. It is
Yeah,
free. So with the GI Bill, basically, I was looking at I think almost all schools take it.
yeah,
If not, there's the ribbon program or yellow ribbon program. I'm not as familiar with, but basically, I was just looking at schools. I knew I wanted to do nursing at the time, so I was like, okay, well, let me find something around here that will do it. Work. Don't be afraid to ask questions. There's never a dumb question. Like, don't be afraid to call the VA. Yes, if you have to be on hold for a little bit, it's part of life. Okay. We probably had to hurry up and wait once upon a time in the military. We can do it one more time to get a free education.
yeah,
And so I think just being patient with that aspect, like the administration portion of it, is what I did. And then whenever I went back and switched schools for my bachelor's to master's bridge program, I just called the VA and was like, hey, and they have an education department. So they basically link you to a specific, like a case manager kind of situation that's going to handle it. And they then liaison talking to the school and then just check your school email, make sure everything goes through. I got mailed everything too. Like I felt very lucky. I didn't have any major things to look out for. I think the biggest thing is just don't be afraid to call them and
yeah.
ask for help. They will help you.
Oh, good. Awesome. Then bringing it to a close, what is like the funniest or a funny story from your time in service?
I was thinking about this and I don't know if I can share anything funny.
Like, because nothing's funny or it's all classified.
I don't it's not it's like Gunner ISO classified. So um there's so many funny things, man, if it comes to me. I can't I have so many things going on in my head, like, but I can't, like, the gunship, it's like Fight Club,
Right.
the gunship community. Like, I'm not talking about Fight Club. There's a
Well, yeah, don't do it on my podcast, and I don't want them to be like, well,
absolutely
those are the
not. No,
guys
they'll
that
come
you.
after me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't.
Yeah, no, I think there's so much camaraderie that occurs in the military, and you have to have fun with it. Um, I'll say this, we had a communication system on the aircraft where everybody's on radio. This was on the AC-130U because it's a little bit different now from what I've heard. Is the gunners, we had our own channel. I don't know who put that in, but God bless them. We had our own channel to talk to each other so no one could hear our conversations.
Hmm.
It was phenomenal. But sometimes you can hot mic anyone.
Oh, I bet.
Oh yeah, so we that was always fun. And I will leave the story at that.
What about What about a good basic training or anything like that story?
Basic training story. Like funny? Oh my gosh.
There's got to be a lot.
Is
What year
there?
did you go through?
2011.
Okay,
I was dorm chief. I felt like nothing was funny. I was just trying to survive.
that's a pretty good story then.
So,
What was like?
I remember one time I think I had to stand there when we this is for the Air Force. I don't know what everyone else is like, but when you go into the chow hall, you have your flight lines. So
Hmm.
one line goes at a time. And so I would have to stand at the front and watch everyone and make sure they're like standing at like parade rest and their hands were
You
perfectly
were like a hall
positioned.
monitor.
Kind of, yeah. And then I would like once every our flight was through, then I would go and the next flight would come. And I remember standing there and the TI, not mine, but another one,
Hmm.
he was like laughing at me for the way I was holding my hand. I know I'm showing the camera right now, but like, when you have to close your hand and have your thumb perfectly over it when you're like at
Yeah.
attention. He's like, you're not doing it right. He's like, haven't you ever been fishing? And I was like, no. And he couldn't keep a straight face. He literally was like dumbfounded and he started laughing. I was like, okay, he's a human. Like, this is cool. And he's like, ugh. But then you could see like the dad and him like, what? And I'm like, sorry, I didn't go fishing, but I know how to shoot a gun.
Yeah, it's still
Oh,
good.
yeah.
We thank you for listening and we hope you got something helpful out of this.
Right now, the best way to support us is to simply spread the word. If you know a fellow veteran who could use some resources to elevate their life, send them our way.
Until next time, remember to check your zeros, fives, tens, and 25s.